Good night. Sweet dreams. That's what my dad would say to me. But sometimes I had trouble falling asleep. Then he would tell me stories about his travels. I want this tradition to live on. So now, let me share my stories with you. Early morning dew gathers on delicate, rose-colored petals like glittering tears. The sun has just lifted above the horizon, sending slanting golden rays across the wide valley. The whole landscape glows with mysterious light, and floating over everything is the intoxicating, sweet fragrance of the famous flower that gives this Bulgarian valley its name, the Valley of Roses. Green hedges stretch to the horizon, dotted with countless soft blossoms that flash like pink cotton balls between the leaves. To the north, the peaks of the Balkan mountains rise dark and solid against the glowing morning sky. A misty veil wraps around them, though the hot sun will soon chase it away. This is a perfect day for the harvest. When a dewy morning gives way to a hot day, it's the ideal moment for picking the blossoms of the noble Damask Rose. That's when the blossoms hold their finest oil. But we don't have much time. I'm spending a few days together with a couple other guests in a quiet village in central Bulgaria on a small family-owned rose plantation. Today we're going to help as harvesters. It's not easy work. Bent over, we move along the hedges with woven willow baskets, picking as many of the fragrant blossoms as we can, one after another, again and again. Every so often, someone lets out a soft ouch when one of those thorns finds its way into skin. I mentioned to one of the workers that the thorns seem particularly sharp today. "Oh no," she says cheerfully, "they're the same as always. You're just new." Well, that explains it. Despite the effort, I'm completely enchanted by this magical morning. It has this incredibly calming and freeing effect on me. The vastness of the valley stretches for miles and miles east and west. The stillness of the blue, silent mountain chains to the north and south is comforting. The pink spots of color spill in wild abundance over the hedges. And of course, that heavenly rose scent hovers over the landscape like a memory of sweet, promising days. After an hour, I stop to straighten my back. The air smells different the longer we work. A mix of flowers, earth, and something warm and human. Sweat, sunblock, old linen. Somewhere a tractor coughs to life, and a dog barks. Otherwise, the only sound is of hands brushing paddles and the quiet rhythm of people who've done this every summer for their entire lives. Pick, twist, drop. Listening to them, the motion becomes almost hypnotic. The same simple movement repeated over and over. My body finds the rhythm of the work too, even though I'm nowhere near as fast or skilled as the local harvest helpers. They break blossoms between their index and middle fingers with this seemingly effortless grace, gathering several at once in one hand. An old woman, picking beside me, looks at me and says, "I loved the rose harvest even as a school child." She laughs with a mischievous, toothless smile. "We didn't have school all through May and June. We worked in the fields in the mornings, and the rest of the day was free." When I ask her how many years she's been doing this, she just laughs and says, "Long enough that the roses and I have an understanding." I don't press for a number, and I picture her as a young girl, setting down her basket after the work was done and running with flying hair into an endless summer day. Every now and then I stop for a moment to admire these little works of nature. I run my hand over the translucent, infinitely soft petals. I admire their rosy pink color that shimmers cream white in places, and the yellow powdery stamens at the center of each blossom. I even touch the delicate but surprisingly sharp thorns. One after another, the precious blossoms land in my basket, one by one, slowly, steadily. While the sun climbs higher and higher, we move through the long, fragrant rows in concentrated silence. A growing warmth slowly gathers in the valley, settling in, making itself at home. The location here offers perfect conditions for the rose, which originally came from Persia. The Balkan mountains hold back the cold north wind, while warm air from the Aegean flows into the valley from the south. Nearly 70% of the world's rose oil comes from this place. I can understand perfectly why the Damask Rose feels so at home here. By early afternoon, we finish our work. I empty my last basket into the huge plastic sacks, reaching in with my bare hands to enjoy the feeling of the blossoms gliding like velvet through my fingers, soft and smooth and cool. There are so many sacks they could fill an enormous pool. I can picture myself taking a bath in this infinite, fragrant sea of blossoms, diving in and out, swimming back and forth through a silk cloud of roses. The next moment, the sacks are already being loaded onto a tractor and taken to the distillery. They have to be processed quickly, so as little of the aroma is lost as possible. We'll see the processing later, but first we need to recover from our work. Right there, among the hedges, a picnic table is set up, covered with the most delicious Bulgarian foods. Soft white sheep's cheese, stuffed peppers, a savory dip made from eggplant, garlic, and walnuts. Elena, our hostess, has even brought a pot of tarator, a cold cucumber soup with yogurt and dill that tastes especially refreshing after the sweaty work under the Bulgarian sun. We settle into the flickering shade of the hedges, exhausted and content, gazing out at the clear blue mountains in the distance. Thorny branches reach upward in front of them with elegant green leaves and glowing pink blossoms. An hour later, rested and fortified, we enter the distillery. The place is bustling. The sacks of blossoms are being emptied into an enormous cauldron where they are steeped in water and heated. I ask if anyone's ever fallen in. Not yet, comes the reply, but the season's not over. With the steam, the volatile essential oils also turn to vapor. Then they are diverted and cooled, so they condense. It's a relatively simple chemical process that doesn't need any additives. The oil is a completely pure, natural product. I watch with fascination as the pale golden liquid drips from various tubes and apparatuses, drip by drip, drop by drop. It takes 3 tons of blossoms to make 1 liter of oil, and it certainly comes with a price. A liter of this oil, which is among the most expensive and purest in the world, costs tens of thousands of euros. I stare at the simmering, precious liquid. I'm standing in front of a vault of treasure, though I no longer want to swim in it. The scent of roses in the distillery is almost overwhelming. Warm and sweet and everywhere. We are completely wrapped in it, bathed in it. It's a welcome relief when we step back outside and the earthy smell of soil and the spicy scent of tractor engines reach us. It shows you once again, even good things can only be enjoyed in moderation. This evening, there's a real highlight waiting. The Festival of Roses. It has deep traditional meaning in this region, celebrated at the end of the summer harvest in many villages with parades and processions. But before the festival, I need a little distance from the roses. I'm drawn out of the village, over uneven cobblestones, past farmhouse gardens and lavender fields. A path leads up into the mountains. Cicadas chirp in the tall golden grasses, their song rising and falling. The heat moves in shimmering waves from the dusty path ahead of me. Soon, though, the path enters a shaded, ancient beech forest. The bright green leaves form a light-dappled canopy, and warm sunlight falls on the soft forest floor covered in brown leaves. The path winds up and down, past large moss-covered boulders and enormous pale green ferns, through rugged little valleys and over small wooden bridges. Beneath them, a babbling mountain stream tumbles down over smooth polished pebbles and gathers in larger pools that shimmer in turquoise. Suddenly, the forest opens up, and I'm standing on a wide, fragrant mountain meadow. Graceful peacock butterflies drift in their swaying flight from flower to flower, floating, dancing. There's plenty of food for them here. The meadow is covered with purple and blue flowering mountain herbs and countless wildflowers. Everything is humming and buzzing. A pleasant warmth surrounds me. Up here it feels nice. It's noticeably cooler than down in the hot valley. I sink onto a stone and take in the view of the lush valley and the blue-green peaks, some still snow-covered even though it's already summer. I take in Old Mountain. That's what they call the Balkan range here in Bulgaria. Even though geologically speaking it's actually one of the younger mountain ranges, out here in this wild, untouched nature, I feel a sense of eternity. The peace and slowness of this landscape, spared from human hurry, spreads through me, settling in my bones. I want to give myself over completely to this timeless calm for a while, but I can't. The sun's rays are already falling at a slant across the golden meadow. If I want to make it back to the valley in time for the Festival of Roses, I need to start heading down. It's strange, I think, as I descend. All day I've had the scent of roses in my nose, and now I can barely remember it. Even more so, if someone asked me to describe it in one word, I couldn't. Sweet? But that's not very original, and certainly doesn't describe the luxury of its essence. In the little town, the festival is already underway. Along the main street, people have gathered to watch the parade. After the solitude of the mountains, I need a little time to adjust to the crowds of people. But soon I'm completely captivated by the colorful scene. I ask someone how long the celebration usually lasts. Until the blossoms run out or the dancers do, a man tells me. Whichever comes first. Countless rose blossoms being thrown through the air rain down on me, carried here and there by the wind in a constant swirl. Different folk groups pass by, one after another. Many wear traditional red and white costumes with elaborate embroidery on their blouses and skirts. Others wear Roman-looking helmets and armor. Some even wear animal furs and animal-shaped masks. Maybe those costumes refer to the Thracian culture. Thracians lived in this region since ancient times and were later colonized by Greeks and then Romans. At the roadside, farmers demonstrate the traditional rose oil extraction with gleaming silver apparatuses. Everywhere the golden liquid trickles into small glass bottles, releasing its incomparable fragrance. It smells like... Well, what does it smell like? May I ask you a question? I say to the woman beside me. She's wearing a beautiful wreath of full pink blossoms and carrying a willow basket filled with petals. She shakes her head, and I'm confused for a moment, until I remember that in Bulgaria, nodding and shaking your head mean the opposite of what they do everywhere else. That can be confusing, but she's still looking at me kindly. How would you describe the smell of a rose? I ask. She laughs brightly and thinks for a moment. Well, she says, sweet, of course, but also a tiny bit tart and a little bit peachy, a little... Like first love lost, the man next to her interrupts, winking at me. A rose smells like a rose naturally, another woman calls out, and I have to smile. Just like Gertrude Stein wrote, a rose is a rose is a rose. Suddenly, a murmur runs through the crowd. Driving past in a golden carriage is the Rosata, the freshly crowned Rose Queen. In a magnificent pink dress and golden sash, she almost floats by. Now the rain of blossoms becomes a storm of petals. Everywhere people reach into their baskets and unleash a fireworks display of rose blossoms on the Queen. With blossoms in my hair and tucked into my collar, I quietly slip away. I've had my fill of crowds for today, though the energy and joy were enchanting to behold. The lively music and jubilation of the dancing crowds grow softer and softer, fading away into the side streets. I walk on through the setting sun until I'm back among the rose fields. Golden evening light pours into the valley, touching every little thing. The mountains shimmer softly in the twilight. I take in the deep stillness hanging like delicate mist across the plain. The scattered clouds look like fluffy pink cotton candy competing with the blossoms. A few pink flowers still flash on the hedges. In the evening light they look as if their tips have been dipped in liquid gold. But in just a few days, everything will be harvested and the valley will be quiet again. One more time, I breathe in deeply the sweet fragrance. Thanks to a tiny bottle of the finest Bulgarian rose oil, I'll be able to bring it out and smell the fields again whenever I want. Later, lying in bed, I need no help remembering it. The events of the day are still very alive in my body. The rhythm of picking the blossoms, the feeling of running my hands through the full willow baskets, the gurgling of the distilling machine, the shimmering golden color of the precious rose oil, the wild beauty of the mountain meadows and forests, the colorful costumes, the swirling petals. The images pass before me like a parade. New rosebuds keep unfolding in my mind's eye, opening their rosy pink petals, blooming again and again in ever more beautiful colors and forms. A rose is a rose, is a rose, is a rose. And this endless procession finally carries me over into the flowery world of dreams.